Hello and welcome to the Spotlight on Natural Resources podcast. And here with me today is Pat Charleboy, who is the Interim Associate Director and Outreach Program Leader with the Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. Pat, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Gavin. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with some of the questions here. So, it's odd that there's a program here in Illinois that seems to focus on the ocean. Can you tell me how that came about?
Oh, sure. The idea of a Sea Grant College program, which is our official name, came about or was the brainchild of an oceanographer, Dr. Athelstan Spilhaus. He first brought up this idea at a national fisheries conference in 1963. He was inspired by the idea or by the impacts that the land grant colleges, of which the University of Illinois is one, the impacts that they had had on the land side of things, particularly like in agriculture. So he thought, we should have one of these types of programs for focused or that for the ocean that focuses on marine and coastal studies. So in 1965, Senator Pell from Rhode Island picked up on this idea and he introduced legislation to establish centers of excellence at land grant colleges, or which became universities in the coastal states. And these centers of expertise or excellence would focus on marine and coastal studies. And in 1966, the National Sea Grant College Act was passed. So that's how we came about. And in Illinois and Indiana, we are one of these programs. We're a bi-state program. Our leadership is shared between the University of Illinois and Purdue, which is Indiana's land grant college. And we focus primarily on Lake Michigan and the coastline, but we also have staff who work throughout the Great Lakes as well as in inland waters. And our mission is the same as the overall mission of Illinois Extension, only we focus on water-based issues. Again, mostly on Lake Michigan and the coastline, but throughout all the Great Lakes and inland waters as well.
Oh, that's very interesting. Thank you there. So, Illinois Indiana Sea Grant focuses on issues affecting our inland seas. Can you give us an idea of the sort of issues or topics you address?
Yeah, we work on a wide variety of topics, and many of our staff work in multiple areas. In Illinois and Indiana specifically, we work on things like fisheries and pond management. We help with aquaculture production and marketing, improved land use planning that helps protect watersheds. We work on aquatic invasive species like the Asian carp, which a lot of people have heard about. We're focusing on the impacts of both high and low water levels of Lake Michigan and the impacts that both of those extremes have on communities. We work on water supply and planning, particularly drinking water in our urban areas. And we work in the area of workforce development, particularly through undergraduate internships and graduate student training. Great Lakes wide, we facilitate the collection and dissemination of Great Lakes data and with engaging communities that surround the designated Great Lakes areas of concern in helping ensure that the communities themselves are involved in the decision-making processes that involve the cleanup and the restoration of the degraded habitats within their own communities. Probably one of our best known areas that we focus on is water safety in Lake Michigan and the Great Lakes. And it's probably best known because we have two buoys that are out in the lake. We have one off of Wilmette and one off of Michigan City. And we know that lots of people access these data that the buoys gather and we make available to the public. They use it before going out on the water to make sure that the conditions are safe and amenable to them going out. Folks can learn more about the types of things that we do on our website by going and exploring it. The URL is iicgrant.org.
Oh, that's a great resource there. Thank you very much. What are some of the specific impacts that Illinois Indiana Sea Grant has had right here in Illinois?
Wow, it's kind of hard to pick from all the great impacts that our staff have had over the years. But I can home in on some of the things that we actually we recently just reported from 2020. Let's see, our Red Oak Rain Garden, which is part of our overall stormwater planning. The Red Oak Rain Garden which is right there on the University of Illinois campus, was renovated in 2019 by Illinois Indiana Sea Grant staff and a whole host of volunteers. And when it was renovated, it was redesigned, or the design was based on an idea of making it require minimal weeding, minimal maintenance. We did that because we had learned over time that a lot of times rain gardens fail because of lack of maintenance, right? They get put in, but then people move on to other things, and they don't always come back, to give the rain gardens what they need in terms of weeding, getting rid of the plants that don't belong in there. So with COVID-19, we kind of had a test space or a test case on the basis that no volunteers were allowed on campus. And so we had just a few of our staff were able to put in a few number of hours with removing plants that didn't belong in the rain garden. And yet the rain garden thrived. And so we see this as kind of like a proof of concept for this minimal maintenance or minimal weeding rain garden. And we see it as it kind of setting the standard for campus sustainable rainwater management, as well as being a living learning lab for students for years to come. Our education team in 2020 also conducted a series of online workshops. These workshops were it was supposed to be a week-long workshop on board the EPA Lake Guardian, which is a ship out on this year would have been out on Lake Michigan. But because of COVID, our staff had to pivot. And so they offered a series of online workshops. We also continued our Limna Loan program, in which we lend out a piece of scientific equipment to teachers. And both the Limna Loan program and these workshops, we found inspired the teachers to be able to take back, they told us that they were going to take this information back and teach their students about Lake Michigan. And we also heard from teachers, we've heard from teachers over the years with the Limna Loan program, that the kids get really inspired by using this scientific piece of equipment, because they know that researchers use the same thing out in the real world. So they're getting this real world experience, which gets them excited. We also added one new community to our pharmaceutical take-back program in 2020. The program overall has kept over 18,000 pounds of pharmaceuticals out of our waterways. And 28 of the 55 total programs that we have throughout the Great Lakes are right here in Illinois.
Well, you guys do so much, and so many great things with your program here. That's amazing. How do you go about making all of this happen, though?
We do this through what we refer to as a three-legged stool. Besides hiring great people and working with wonderful partners, we approach the issues that we work on by funding and conducting research, by working with communities, a variety of communities throughout the Great Lakes, to get them the information that they need for decision making, regardless of what those decisions are, or decisions surrounding lots of different topics, like I've mentioned. And also we work on this through providing students, professionals, and the public with educational opportunities. So in short, this three-legged stool is research, outreach, and education.
Pat, thank you so much for your time today and answering all of our questions here. Thank you very much. We really appreciate that.
Oh, you're welcome, Gavin. This was fun.
And that concludes this podcast on Spotlight on Natural Resources. Thank you and have a wonderful day.